Couples around the world are having fewer children, and in some cases, they're opting out altogether on being parents. Now, some population experts have argued that that could deal a blow to economies that depend on workers and their taxes to fund government programs such as pensions and health care. But according to a recent study by the East-West Center in the University of California at Berkeley, a lower birth rate could actually boost the standard of living. Here we go. Researchers say that there are still some countries in Asia and Europe that could benefit from more births. They include Japan, Spain, South Korea, Italy, Germany, Austria, and Slovenia. Now, for more on this, I spoke with Andrew Mason at the East-West Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. We talked about the economic consequences of higher fertility rates in India.
You know, there's always two sides to population. They're consumers, but they're producers. And so they do have a bit more kids, but it also means they have fewer elderly. And the fertility rate that India has actually produces a fairly high concentration in the tax-paying ages. So in our research, a total fertility rate of around 3 births per woman is actually pretty good for public finances. It's a problem, it is costly. Children cost a lot, so it does mean people have to make some material sacrifices if they want to have that many kids. But public finances are, I don't think, adversely affected particularly.
I guess sometimes we forget that they're taxpayers as well. Heading up north to China, you know, we talked about this before, but this new change they've adopted in terms of the one-child policy, allowing now some couples to have a second child. The recent data shows that very few couples apparently are taking up on this offer of having a second child, despite the fact that we heard a lot of people did want to have a second child. What do you think's going on here?
Well, that's interesting. You know, I was just in Beijing last week, and so I had an opportunity to talk to people there about what their views were, including people from the Family Planning Commission and noted academics working on these issues. And I think they were all surprised that there was not some sort of mini baby boom when the one-child policy was relaxed. And this was based on surveys about what people wanted and their intentions. And, you know, I think with those kinds of surveys, you ask people, would you like to have another child? And they say, yes, sure, I would. I'd love to have another child. But then when it comes time to make the decision, they start thinking about how costly it is. And, you know, housing is really expensive in urban China now, and education costs are really high there. And so I don't think there's going to be a baby boom in China. I think that fertility rates, birth rates are likely to be quite low.
Heading slightly to the east there in Japan, they have a different situation there where the birth rate has been relatively low for some time. In fact, you have a very large population of the elderly now getting older, and it seems to be having some significant consequences, at least to the workforce and to the overall economy. And I'm wondering what's in store now for Japan, because there's not much that's going to change in the coming years. That the trend is pretty much set.
As you say, the birth rate has been low in Japan for decades now, and there have been some policies that the government has pursued, you know, trying to subsidize child care expenses, trying to make companies more supportive of work-life balance. And these things don't seem to have paid off a lot. It's possible that if they did more, maybe they're just not helping people enough, that birth rates would go up. But I think the reality is that Japan has to plan on a future in which the elderly population is twice as large in percentage terms as it is today.
I don't know what it is, and maybe you can help me, Professor. The cost of raising children has been brought up a number of times as to why we're seeing declining birth rates. I personally think maybe it's the fact that both the mother and father want to spoil their one child. that's possible as well. There's all kinds of theories. What's your theory as to why this trend of declining birth rates, and is it because ultimately, is it just about money?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with how the societies accommodate women's aspirations to have children and to have a career. So, you know, in the United States, well, I have a daughter who's a professional woman. She has 2 children. Her husband stayed home and took care of the kids so that she could continue to work. And well, this just doesn't happen in many parts of the world. And there are a lot of other ways that companies and businesses, they just aren't very supportive of people having families and also having careers. And I think that's probably the most important reason why birth rates are so low in Japan, other parts of East Asia, and in Southern Europe.
Andrew Mason there from the East West Center joining us from Hawaii. Thank you very much.